UFC is scary if you look at the injuries these guys sustain. From broken bones to gushing blood, everything's super gory. Today, let's look at UFC fighters who were never the same after injuries. First up is a scary knee injury, Rashad Evans. Rashad Evans, a former UFC light heavyweight champion, was supposed to fight Daniel Cormier at UFC 170.
He's got a guard here, but he's not really controlling Rashad's posture.
Suga, a fighter with a history of injuries, recently had knee pain that would keep him out of action for 4 weeks. Evans' experience with the injury was a living nightmare. He had many surgeries and continued to have problems until he returned to the UFC in October 2015, over 2 years after his first bout.
Explodes. Look at this. Rampage fights that. Knee by Jackson.
It was a terrible turn of events for the New Yorker, who had only lost 3 of his 18 UFC bouts before that. Before losing to Glover Teixeira, Daniel Kelly, Sam Alvey, and Anthony Smith, Evans suffered a unanimous decision loss in his return bout against Ryan Bader.
Rashad has got the mount, and this is probably one of the first punches that rocked him. And you see Jason's kind of moving away here, and then bang!
After his defeat against Lionheart in June 2018, he declared his retirement from MMA. When Evans returned from his knee injury, he was a shell of his former self, losing all 5 of his bouts.
Busy. Here he comes. Rampage back up. The legs again.
Up next was another man who had the worst fall, Darren Till.
Punching range. It's almost like he's tempting. Oh, a nice takedown there from the Thai boxer.
Darren Till's fall from glory has been remarkable. The legendary The Gorilla used to be an unbeatable boxer who had an undeniable magnetism. He was cheered on by everyone in England as he climbed the welterweight ranks. His exit from UFC 228 was one usually reserved for a rising star. To hear the audience react to him, it was as if a new UFC star had been born.
That single. Big left. And again, Masvidal calls him on, but he can't be taking those even on his guard.
Tyron Woodley's The Gorilla is included in our unfortunate collection of submissions. A knockout defeat to Jorge Masvidal followed in his second fight. Out of his last 5 bouts, he lost 4. Between those battles, he has coped with various injuries.
Nature is very, very nice to watch. There it is again, beautiful left hand, very playful.
In his most recent match, the Gorilla faced Derek Brunson, who introduced him to the world of grappling. Till was slated to battle Jack Hermanson earlier this year, but was forced to withdraw from the contest due to an unexplained ailment.
Oh, nice left hook there from Masvidal.
Good combination.
Now we see Masvidal moving forward.
His injured collarbone forced him to pull out of a bout with Marvin Vettori before he had met Derek Brunson. Before that, the first of 2 scheduled fights between the Englishman and Hermanson was postponed. Injuries also forced him to miss the match.
Of a fight or two, whereas obviously Bojan Velickovic is coming off an excellent win over Nico Musoki, but
even though he was once considered a future champion, Till hasn't won a match in almost 3 years. Up next is a fan favorite with a pretty short career, Shane Carwin. Mixed martial artist Shane Carwin's career was cut short. This heavyweight power puncher competed in 14 bouts, winning 12. All but 2 of the fights were over within the first round. His ability to generate force was second only to that of Francis Ngannou in the contemporary age. When he submitted former heavyweight champion Frank Mir in under 3 minutes at UFC 96, the former NCAA Division II wrestler astonished fans. So Carwin became the interim champion and earned a rematch with the reigning champion, Brock Lesnar. Although Carwin almost knocked out Lesnar in the first round, he eventually lost due to exhaustion and a submission through arm triangle choke in the second. He had never lost before, but Junior Dos Santos would be his second opponent to overcome him. After the incident, Carwin said that he planned to get back surgery to help with his ailments. Regaining full health took longer than planned, and just when his comeback was looking likely, he suffered a knee injury. He retired from boxing due to an accumulation of injuries. Up next is a fan who had to step away in the prime of his career, Bas Rutten. Bas Rutten has a respectable career record of 28-4-1. Nonetheless, if injuries hadn't sidelined him, El Guapo may have gone on to even greater success in the ring. In 1993, Rutten first competed at Mixed Martial Arts, MMA, Pancrase. An outside region. Over the course of 5 years with the team, he had a 25-4-1 record. Rutten faced and defeated several of the world's top MMA competitors while competing abroad. These opponents included legends like Frank and Ken Shamrock and Masakatsu Funaki. When he arrived in the UFC, he quickly rose through the ranks to become the heavyweight champion by defeating Kevin Randleman. After a close bout that ended in a split decision for El Guapo, Rutten decided to drop weight classes to compete at his natural light heavyweight weight. Rutten's career was cut short before he could make history by becoming the first boxer to win belts in 2 different weight divisions. Numerous career-ending injuries ultimately led to Rutten's retirement, yet he left the game while still considered one of the best of all time. It's possible that Rutten's status as an MMA icon would have grown even larger in his absence. He had a wonderful career and is recognized as one of the sport's real pioneers. But had his career not been cut short by injuries, Rutten may be counted with the likes of Fedor Emelianenko and Anderson Silva as one of the sport's all-time greats. And how can we forget one, TJ Dillashaw? After UFC 280, TJ Dillashaw admitted to accepting a championship bout while suffering a serious shoulder injury, which drew widespread media attention, even though he is one of the best boxers of all time. The former 2-division bantamweight champion has only competed in 4 bouts in the last few years. A first ban followed a positive test for EPO by the former Team Alpha male member. Upon his comeback, his performance against Corey Sandhagen was severely hampered by a major knee injury he sustained in the first round. Although he ultimately prevailed, many onlookers felt Sandhagen had done enough to win. Dillashaw faced Aljamain Sterling for the championship at UFC 280, but it took him a year to recuperate from knee surgery and fight again. The previous champion, unfortunately, had his shoulder dislocated over 20 times during training. Still, he decided to go through with the battle out of concern that a similar chance would not present itself again until the end of his career. Dillashaw was completely ineffective and aggravated his shoulder injury throughout the bout. His opponent controlled the fight from start to finish, and he lost via technical knockout. After the fight, several of his colleagues criticized him for not disclosing his injuries to UFC medical staff. Dillashaw had shoulder surgery, and after learning how long it would take to recuperate, he decided to leave mixed martial arts. Finally, a famous name of the game, Ken Shamrock. It's inevitable that a boxer who has been in the ring for 17 years would have a number of injuries. Ken Shamrock, however, took a lot of hits in the latter stages of his career, when he was well beyond the sunset of his fame. Shamrock suffered 5 straight defeats from 2005 to 2008, all by way of knockout or technical knockout. Now, of course, because he was older, the injuries must have hurt more too. One of the sport's early pioneers was knocked out, or technically knocked out, 9 times. This is a tragic story. When he had to quit his battle with Kazuyuki Fujita due to what seemed to be a heart condition, he probably should have retired. To repeat though, proud combatants usually nearly keep going well beyond their time should have ended. Thank God Shamrock hasn't been in a fight since 2010. Shamrock was a very significant person in the history of the sport, despite the criticism he received from many fans who got into the sport during the Tito Ortiz period.